A lot of trans masculine people are feeling distressed because, like, nobody knows we exist. Nobody knows or cares that we exist. And maybe this is going to be the only way that people learn what a trans man is. They're gonna make the word trans masculine synonymous with this person who committed this heinous crime. And that's been very distressing for a lot of people in my community. Hello, everybody. So today I have to talk about something that's pretty distressing, and not gonna lie, it's been a little bit distressing for me, myself. And so if I appear rather flustered and a little bit disorganized in this video, that is why. So please stick with me. Despite that, I apologize. But I feel like it would be wrong for me to not say anything. I'm a trans masculine person, and a lot of people in my community are really distressed by this right now. And like, I want to be there for you guys. I think it's important. So here we go. Yesterday, as you guys are likely aware, there was another American mass shooting at a school, this time in Nashville, Tennessee. 6 people were killed, I guess 7 if you include the perpetrator. And 3 of the victims were kids. And it's really awful. This is distressing for all of the normal reasons, but also a little extra distressing because the perpetrator appeared to have been a trans masculine person. And I'm not going to be saying this person's name in this video. I'm not going to be showing a picture of them. But what I do want you to know about this person is that I do think it is perfectly reasonable to believe that this person was trans masculine. In their social media bios, they have he, him next to their name. And they do not appear to pass as a cis man, if that is relevant to any of you. And there's a few things that I want to say here about this. I could say like the really obvious shit. Like, for example, it doesn't matter that this person happened to be trans. That doesn't reflect on the whole community. Why would that reflect on the whole community? Like, Sock Done Left made a handy little bar chart that we can see here, where if we compare how many shooters were cis versus how many shooters have been trans in the last couple of years, cis people are like majorly overrepresented. Like, if trans people are approximately 0.5 to 2% of the population, then we would expect around that many people to have been trans on this chart here, right? But that's not the case. It's like trans people are about 1/100th of the size that you would expect on this chart. And there's the other stuff, like, of course trans people are gonna be bad people sometimes. We never claimed that all trans people are like uniquely virtuous, although if we look at the stats, it almost kind of seems that way, not gonna lie. A minority demographic does not have to be uniquely virtuous in order for them to be respected, in order for them to not be scapegoated and persecuted. Like this shit is obvious, right? But it doesn't matter. It's really frustrating because it doesn't matter. This kind of shit is done to minority groups all the time. Like, it's like 101 how to persecute a minority group, like in the playbooks. It's a very basic strategy, is associating the group with criminality, with being dangerous. It just happens to be trans people's turn right now. Something that I want you to understand about conservatives and transphobes and bigots, you know, they're all the same people. The Venn diagram is a circle. But what I want you to understand about them is that nobody wants to believe that they are a bigot. Nobody wants to believe that they're the bad guy persecuting a vulnerable minority population because they're just hateful motherfuckers, because they're dumbasses who see that they dislike one person in a group and then associate it with the rest of the group. Like, that'd be pretty embarrassing if that was something that you knew about yourself, right? So you can't possibly admit that to yourself. Like, the cognitive dissonance is a little bit painful to a lot of people. And so what they need is they need validation. They need to believe that that is not something that's true about them. And so what they see here is they see all of their biases being confirmed in this situation. They believe that trans people are mentally ill, emotionally unstable, and this this problem with their brains, their gender confusion, makes them more likely to hurt people. It makes them a danger to themselves, but it also makes them a danger to other people, especially children. And we see in this situation that a trans person killed other people, and half the people they killed were children. Like, if that doesn't confirm the shit that they already believe about trans people, then, like, I don't know what does. You know, a lot of trans people right now are feeling like, man, why did he have to do this? Like, we are already being persecuted lately. Like, I think it was this month in March 2023 that Michael Knowles called for the eradication of transgenderism. And in the last couple months, it's been the legislative sessions of a lot of states that are passing bills that are harming trans people. And it's really scary right now. It's been really scary. It's already been really distressing for a lot of us. And this is sort of just like the cherry on top. And so, like, the first thing that I want to say to you is that if this is distressing to you, you should not be on Twitter reading what transphobes are saying about you. You should not be watching Fox News. You should not be in any of these spaces where bigots are trying to harm you. They want you to feel bad. You know, don't let them do that to you. You should not be looking at content like that. And the second thing I want to tell you is that these people are not reasonable. If somebody thinks this way, where they are looking for trans people who commit crimes to validate the shit that they already believe about trans people, they are not reasonable. They are not, you can't convince them. You cannot have a reasonable conversation with them. You know what they always say is, you can't reason somebody out of a position that they did not reason themselves into. They just hate trans people. There's nothing you can do about that. You should not waste your time thinking about them. You should not be distressed worrying about what they think about you, because they're just bad people. They're just fucked up in the head. Like, just, there's nothing you can do about it. I'm sorry, it really hurts. It sucks. But there are a lot of people who, in fact, most people do support trans rights. Like, most people are not won over by shit like this. Like, I know it's distressing and I know it's hard, but it's just digital self-harm to look at posts like that. I want to make sure that you guys don't linger. Don't be looking at this stuff. You just don't have to. Associating a demographic, a minority group with criminality is just a par for the course. It's just a thing that they do to us. It's just something that we're going to have to deal with from now on. If you're a trans person, this is something we're going to have to deal with. And, you know, I guess the good news is that the population of trans people is so small that we're probably not going to have to deal with this as much as other groups are going to have to deal with it. But I do also want to remind you guys that this is not unique to us. This is something that almost every minority group ever has dealt with. You guys saw Trump say that all Mexican people are like rapists on TV. You guys saw that happen a few years ago. There was an XKCD comic that I really like that demonstrates this in a handful of words. Very simply, there's two stick figures. One of them says, "Wow, you suck at math." In the next image, one of the stick figures is a girl doing the same shit. And then he says, "Wow, girls suck at math." And, you know, this is something that I think is hard to explain to people if they haven't experienced it themselves. But there's this pressure when you are part of a minority group to never misbehave. Like, you can never do anything that would make the group look bad. There's a lot of pressure there. And the standard is impossible to keep up with, right? Even if you're like somehow a perfect person, there's always going to be other trans people who, for whatever reason, like, fit a stereotype, or a lot of other trans people might say that trans person makes us look bad. And, like, all of us want to be good transes. There's this pressure for all of us to be the good trans that is acceptable to cis people, who behaves like we should and gives trans people all like a good name, right? I just want to tell you guys that this pressure, like trying to meet this expectation, it's unrealistic, it's unhealthy, and it's not something that you should worry yourselves with. And that is especially true considering the fact that to transphobes, all trans people are the same. I'm not just talking about individual trans people, I'm talking about types of trans people. I think like within the community, we understand and acknowledge that binary trans people have different challenges than non-binary people. We know that trans masculine people and trans feminine people have pretty different struggles despite us all being trans. But to transphobes, that doesn't exist. It doesn't matter. We're all degenerates. We're all
franny tags.
I know there are a lot of trans men who are distressed by this because there's not a lot of representation of trans men. Trans masculine people suffer from a lot of erasure, a lot of invisibility, while on the opposite side of the spectrum, trans feminine people suffer from hyper visibility, where a lot of trans women, in fact, there's something that I failed to mention, which is that with a lot of shootings, there has been a tendency, a repeated pattern of hoaxes brought up, where when the information starts coming out and we don't know who the perpetrator is or what's really going on yet, some people will get online and claim that they have found the identity of the shooter, and they will link a random trans woman's Twitter profile. This has happened several times, and there was actually one time where an elected official, a Republican of course, shared this profile, and I know this trans woman got a lot of hate and a lot of harassment for something that I don't think she even lived in the state where it happened. And so there's that dynamic of the hyper visibility and the hyper invisibility of trans feminine people and trans masculine people. A lot of trans masculine people are feeling distressed because nobody knows we exist. Nobody knows or cares that we exist. And maybe this is going to be the only way that people learn what a trans man is. They're gonna make the word trans masculine synonymous with this person who committed this heinous crime. And that's been very distressing for a lot of people in my community. But there's something that I wanted to point out, which is that when I started reading articles about this situation that happened yesterday, a lot of the articles were saying that the perpetrator was a trans woman. And this is important not because of the erasure, but because I need you guys to understand that to cis people, and especially to transphobes, all trans people are the same. It does not matter if you're binary or non-binary. It does not matter if you're trans masculine or trans feminine. It doesn't matter if you're dysphoric or not dysphoric, transsexual or transgender. We're all the same to them. And this goes for people who are LGBT who aren't trans as well. We're all the fucking same to them, and we need to stop this petty squabbling, this infighting that I see happen in our community 24/7. Because they're working very hard to try to make us disappear. They don't care how that happens. They don't care what that means for us. But they're working hard to make it happen. And it is really scary. And it is really hard. And I just wanted to remind you guys that it's going to be okay. This isn't the first time this has happened. This has happened to other groups a million times over. I guess that there's the possibility that some people are going to try to use this to be like, yo, check it out. This is why testosterone is dangerous. If you use exogenous hormones, they've already been doing that shit though. It's not new. They've been pretending that exogenous hormones or cross-sex hormones have been dangerous since transphobia has existed. That's been one of the lines. I just mostly wanted to tell you guys that there's no reason to despair over this. It is distressing and it does suck, but it's okay. It's gonna be all right.